It was a daring operation. 11 days after an Indian Army camp was attacked in Jammu and Kashmir, the Indian Army reported that it had carried out a surgical strike on terrorists in Pakistan. The date was September 29, 2016. It was swift and a targeted attack aimed at neutralizing terror launch pads across the border. Sections of opposition parties in India had questioned the operation, saying such exercises had been covertly carried out in the past as well. Some others had demanded proof and photographic or videographic evidence. Now, almost 2 years after the operation, we have the proof. WION has accessed video footage of the operation, which was captured through a UAV and a head-mounted camera and beamed to the Army's control room. The footage shows Pakistani Army men along with terrorists as well as the decimation of Pakistani bunkers. As many as 38 terrorists were killed in the Indian retaliatory operation. Take a look at the video footage that we have. The Congress party has accused the Modi government of politicizing the surgical strike for its own gain. Let's listen into what they said.
सत्ताधारी दल को ये याद रखना होगा कि हमारे साहसी सैनिकों के बेशकीमती बलिदान को मोदी सरकार व भारतीय जनता पार्टी राजनीतिक लाभ के लिए वोट बटोरने का साधन नहीं बना सकते।
Well, the Congress party clearly hitting out at the Bharatiya Janata Party, saying the credit should have gone to the army and not the political party in power. And joining me on the program is retired Lieutenant General Syed Ata Hasni. And, the point that the video has silenced many critics, Lieutenant General, how do you view this, or what do you think should be the option for a country like ours? Instead of politicizing, we should take pride in what our army has achieved.
Absolutely, I'm in agreement with you. But just remember one thing. This strike which took place just 10 or 11 days after the event at Uri, there is no doubt that it occurred. And I think no one in the world doubts that. The issue is more important is the strategic messaging, how it should be handled. There should be lessons for the future. I think I did hear General Huda, who was the army commander, Northern Command at that time, I did hear him last night also say that it would have been a good thing if some rushes, some video shots of this particular operation had been put out into the public space early enough, so that the believability about, the credibility about it would be much higher. At the same time, I would also say it would have been a very good thing if the political community of India had all got together. Instead of bickering about surgical strikes having occurred in the past and that this is being used for political purposes now, if the political community had got together and in a place like the parliament had just passed a simple resolution complimenting and congratulating the Indian army, perhaps the strategic messaging from this would have been far greater. That is the kind of lesson which should emerge from it. Unfortunately, 650 days later, the issue is coming back alive again. Of course, we have now all the footage available to us. I don't think the world ever doubted that this had happened. But now at this time, as we are closing on to elections, all kinds of allegations will be made against the government, and the army, unfortunately, will become the element which will be sandwiched in the middle.
Right, and Lieutenant General, the interesting point you said that there has to be a strategic messaging instead of political bickering and fighting within ourselves. The surgical strike video, in a way, is significant because it tells the world that India does have that military might to fight any enemy that is stepping in our lands, and also the fact that people criticizing or people, not being able to sort of acknowledge the valor of our forces should be joining the forces to realize how difficult it is to carry out such covert operations and then emerge successful.
No, this is a very interesting aspect which you have introduced into the debate, whether people who question the credibility of the actions of the armed forces should themselves be actually entering the armed forces. Now, there isn't space for everyone in the armed forces. The armed forces and this profession is a very, very professional thing. It's not just that anyone can enter into it and become a soldier or become an officer or become a general. I think that should be very, very clear to everyone. There's a very stringent selection process for it, and there is a tremendous amount of experience, training which goes into it. But what is very important as a message for the rest of India is that India's strategic culture is actually lacking today. And this, I think, across the board, almost all strategic analysts, people from the strategic community, all generally agree on this. What we need is, we need to make sure the ways to spread the strategic culture all over the country. Everyone who's doing his job is contributing in some way to the national effort towards national security. But the aspect of the realization of what the armed forces do and how that makes a difference is something which needs to be appreciated correctly. And I think the armed forces themselves should get into the business of better public relations, better messaging, better education of the public at large. The political community, I dare say, must be at the focus of this. For example, I don't see very much of discussion on the defense budget in the parliament, in the Indian parliament. Right. I would definitely admire if we have 1 or 2 days of stringent kind of budget deliberations which are taking place there, just in the manner in which it takes place on other aspects of the budget. So these are some issues for us to ponder over, although it doesn't take away anything from the fact that the Indian Army achieved a tremendous thing by carrying out the surgical strikes.
Right, so do stay with us. We're also joined by Arslan Bhatti. He's a senior journalist from Islamabad. Mr. Bhatti, your reactions when the news of surgical strikes broke out and the Indian Prime Minister declared that India had conducted surgical strike operations. Pakistan's national media the other day, including the political class as well as media, had clearly pointed out and said it's a staged one and India is living in a delusion of sorts. How do you respond to this now?
Number one, I am in Lahore, I am not in Islamabad. And number two, the surgical strike was never happened in the past, nor in the recent past, nor in the future. Neither in the future, sorry.
So are you denying that it didn't take place even though you have a video proof?
Till end, and there is no need to comment. Yes, I strongly denied this type of surgical strike because it is never there is what was the authenticity of this video? Today I can arrange such kind of video on my phone. There is no problem at all.
Are you saying this is a doctored video released by the Indian government? You think this is a doctored video is what you are saying?
Of course. Yes.
And what according to you does this doctored video achieve?
A video to be trusted upon.
Right, and
this is a doctored video. There is there is no second opinion. My opinion is very this is a doctored video, again released by the Indian media or anybody who is releasing it. I don't trust that video because in the past, same kind of video was released by the Indian government or any Indian agency, which was also denied by the Pakistani officials, even the Foreign Office. Till time, the Foreign Office spokesman, Dr. Faisal, had no contact with me whenever in the time to come and say around 30 minutes after, I will contact Mr. Faisal and then I will be able to say the official version.
Right. Mr. Arslan Bhatti, do stay with us. I've heard you there. Do stay with us. And also, Lieutenant General, do stay with us. Now, today, Indian Army is in the limelight and footage has emerged of surgical strikes. Remember, Indian Army had carried out an operation in late September 2016 in the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir area. The Indian Army crossed the line of control to take out terrorists. A war of words has erupted now. Opposition is alleging that Modi government is taking undue credit for Army's valor. Opposition says It is not the first time that Indian Army conducted such an operation. Government has maintained opposition insults the army by questioning its actions. WION is asking one simple question today. Would Indian politicians still politicize the army had they served in it? Probably not. We'll come back to that question. Before that, let us tell you what is happening in France. The French government has come up with a plan to reintroduce national services for 16-year-olds. French President Emmanuel Macron believes that it will promote national unity and the French national service once it comes into force, which will both include boys and girls. The French national service will have two phases. First phase will include mandatory 1-month placement to promote civic culture. The French teenagers will be trained with army, police or fire service. And in the second phase, it will be a minimum of 3 months and could last up to a year. The French teenagers will be expected to serve in an area linked to defense and security. Yes, the plan has been diluted, but still the French president is going ahead with it. But here's a surprise. Emmanuel Macron is the first French president who has not done military service. And why? Because compulsory service was scrapped in 1996 when Macron was 18 years old. But France was not alone. There are other countries that already have compulsory military service. North Korea has compulsory military service where men are supposed to serve 11 years in the military. Even North Korean women have to serve 7 years in the military. Then there is Israel, where men are supposed to serve 3 years in the military, while women have to serve 2 years. Iran too has compulsory military service for men. But there are exceptions for gay men and only sons. On the other hand, India's neighbours, China, does have conscription, but only in theory. Nevertheless, China's army is the biggest in the world. The United Kingdom last used the conscription rule in 1960. While the US last called men to duty in 1973. In India, however, there has been never compulsory military service. India still has world's second largest army of volunteers, though. And before we come back to the questions we asked, we also want you to remind Indian politicians that even Britain's Prince Harry has served in the armed forces. Prince Harry served in the war-torn Afghanistan, if you remember. And by his own accounts, Prince Harry killed terrorists in Afghanistan while plotting his Apache helicopter. Iran has it, Israel has it, UK and US too have conscripted their young populations at the times of crisis. France will soon have a national service. Whereas in India, politicians bicker over army's actions. Isn't it then time for military service, which is made of compulsory for those wanting to join politics? Shouldn't Indian politicians learn from the discipline of the Indian army? And will Indian politicians learn to keep politics aside when it comes to national interest? If only they are made to serve in the Indian army, I guess. And continuing our focus here, we're going to continue with our guest, Lieutenant General Syed Hassan, and also he's a strategic analyst from New Delhi. Lieutenant General, the question that we were talking about, and we were speaking to our journalist friend in Pakistan as well, it's easy to be in the space of armchair journalism and armchair politics. What happens when reality comes to life?
Well, I agree entirely. That is very desirable that lots and lots of people enter the armed forces, gain some experience, 2 to 3 years of experience, come out of that and benefit from the immense discipline that you will go through in the armed forces. But I ask, is this practically possible in a country like India? 1.3 billion population with a 1.3 million army. Yes, I agree, national service, not necessarily in the armed forces, but national service in all kinds of organizations like the paramilitary forces, the Central Armed Police forces, the disaster management relief forces and things like that. It is always possible to do it. But to manage this kind of a thing of entry and exit with 2 to 3 years service is something which is going to actually complicate the entire aspect of the army, which is hugely professional. The Indian Armed Forces are very, very professional. There are better means, there are other means available by which we can improve the strategic culture of the political community and the strategic culture of the Indian nation. Let me give you a very simple example. The Indian National Defense University approved by the Kargil Review Committee and the group of ministers in the year 2001, till 17 years from that date today, has still not come up. What is the reason for it? Pakistan had its National Defense University 30 years ago. China has received it 40 years ago. Why is it that in India, an institution of excellence which teaches a basic military science is not allowed to come up? These are the kind of things we need to question. Now, politicians can actually gain tremendous experience and discipline of the Indian armed forces by being attached. They can do courses of instruction on the basis of some coordination between the parliamentary secretariat and the army headquarters or the Ministry of Defense. I would love to see 5 or 10 politicians coming and attending the National Defense College course, which is in Delhi, a stone's throw from the Parliament House. But no one wishes to do it because they don't have the will to do it. And what we need is to legislate that will. It's not necessary to do compulsory military service, but at least understand the basics of what military culture is all about, military discipline is what is all about, and the whole profession of the military. I think that there are a lot of demands for the IAS and the Foreign Service and civil services to do it. Very desirable, again not practical. Everyone cannot do this kind of a service.
Absolutely, everybody cannot do this kind of service. So in your opinion then, instead of politicians being nonchalant and verbose on issues of national importance, do you suggest that this is the way out?
Yes, I do suggest that first
We'll try and connect with Lieutenant General San in just a bit. We're facing some technical difficulties, but that is exactly what we're telling our viewers today. And as he was also pointing out, it's time that our political class realize that it's easy to sit behind a chair and comment than face a tremendous amount of pressure while conducting such operations. This is one of the many that our armed forces have, in fact, conducted in the past, and the valor and the victory needs to be appreciated, not criticized. And certainly Indian leaders need to learn from other countries where their political class or some of their senior political leaders are trained and have joined the military before becoming a politician or a prime minister or a president or a leader of their country.